In today's world, the accessibility of gambling has reached unprecedented levels, permeating every corner of the sports landscape, from the ice rinks to the very uniforms worn by the athletes. The symbiotic relationship between sports and gambling appears timeless, with both industries seemingly inseparable at this point. The allure of the gambling and lottery industry, generating billions annually, presents endless opportunities for the sports sector to capitalize on, like capitalizing on the chance at making limitless amounts of cash. It's also no secret either that gambling and sports has also led to numerous scandals, shaking the foundations of some of our most beloved games. Take for instance the recent turmoil in baseball. Shohei Ohtani is hailed by many as one of the greatest baseball players of all time, but right now his alleged involvement in illegal gambling rings is overshadowing everything. And this wasn't the first time we've seen gambling tarnish the reputation of a baseball great. Moreover, the saga of the legend Pete Rose, the greatest hitter in baseball history, serves as a stark reminder of the repercussions of gambling involvement. As one of the greatest players to ever do it, Pete Rose was banned from baseball for gambling on games while playing and managing. Just think about this for a second. Baseball's all-time leader in hits isn't in the Baseball Hall of Fame because of a gambling scandal. As recent as this year, we saw Shane Pinto get suspended for the first half of the NHL season as a result of gambling. It's no secret that the NHL and some of its best players have some skeletons in the closet. But what if I told you almost 20 years earlier the NHL had one of its biggest gambling scandals, and the NHL has done everything in its power to erase all traces of it, and for the most part they have succeeded in doing so. So let's rewind to 2005 and delve into this crazy story that the NHL doesn't really want you to know about. In October 2005, the New Jersey State Police received an anonymous tip alleging that one of their officers was operating an illegal sports betting service. Investigations revealed that this state trooper was conducting his illicit activities from his residence in Burlington, displaying a brazen disregard for the law. And this guy really thought he was untouchable. He even accepted bets over the phone while on duty at the police station. As suspicions grew, law enforcement had to make a move, so they initiated an undercover operation to dismantle this officer's secret enterprise. Their objectives? Gather significant evidence to bring about a swift and decisive resolution to the case. And what they uncovered left everybody a little bit shook. Fast forward roughly 4 months now. New Jersey police revealed that in a 40-day period, they had uncovered more than 1,000 wagers exceeding $1.7 million in total, with most of these bets being placed on basketball and football games. In February of 2006, the police had enough evidence to go public with their findings. On February 6, 2006, Police Superintendent Rick Fuentes exposed the name of the officer running the organization as James Harney. At this point, you're probably wondering, what does this have to do with hockey? Well, the police also dropped a bombshell during this press conference. They officially coined their operation as Operation Slapshot, because it was revealed that the police, gathering evidence, found out that former player and Arizona Coyotes assistant coach at this time and current head coach for the Vancouver Canucks, Rick Tocchet, was named as a ringleader in the operation. They opened a whole can of worms. Tocchet and James Harney were apparently best friends for years and were also considered to be 50-50 partners running the ring together. Harney was in charge of all the day-to-day tasks, while Tocchet used his big boy money to provide finances by placing large bets and funneling the money back to New Jersey. At first, Tocchet flat out denied all allegations, even going as far as almost filing a defamation of character lawsuit against the state. But the state had him dead to rights, and as time went on, more and more evidence just kept piling on. He wisely decided against the suit and realized he was in too deep. In the same press conference held by the police, we would also learn that others who worked for and around the NHL were also involved. But the police wouldn't reveal the identities of those involved for now. There were even rumors circulating that a movie star was among the bettors in this ring. This was now a big issue for the NHL. Okay, the NHL lockout just ended, now they're hit with all these serious allegations. Allegations and accusations that will definitely make some people wonder if players were trying to fix games. This was nightmare press for the NHL. However, police clarified that there was no evidence indicating that the gambling ring had been placing bets on hockey games at the time. It's important to note that the absence of betting by the ring or any NHL affiliates on their own suggested that the attempt to fix NHL games were very unlikely. Such a revelation would undoubtedly tarnish the sport's reputation forever. Within the following 48 hours, law enforcement officials commenced the release of the names of several NHL players implicated in their investigations, including Phoenix Coyotes forward Jeremy Roenick and Toronto Maple Leafs forward Travis Green. JR and Green were actually two of the more prominent figures mentioned. Both were known to be regular clients of the operation. Rumors also circulated about Penguins forwards Mark Recchi and John LeClair potentially being in on it, but they denied all allegations and they were never officially named or thoroughly investigated by law enforcement. Despite this, authorities suggested that there could be implications for them. The investigation suggested that up to a dozen NHL players, along with several coaches, staff members, and possibly even an NHL team owner were involved. But the craziest thing to come out of all of this was when Wayne Gretzky's wife, Janet Jones, was implicated, accused of placing approximately $500,000 worth of bets with Tocchet's operation. Being under investigation like this, many people suspected that she had been placing bets for Wayne. But Janet Gretzky maintained that her husband Wayne, who was the head coach of the Phoenix Coyotes and Tocchet's superior at the time, had no involvement, and she adamantly denied making any bets on Gretzky's behalf. Much like Tocchet, Janet initiated legal action against the state of New Jersey, seeking damages of $50 million for her defamation and loss of career opportunities, resulting in her inclusion into the investigation. However, I couldn't find any evidence confirming whether she proceeded with this lawsuit or if it was eventually dropped at a later stage. So just as things kept looking more and more illegal, the feds even believed the gambling ring might have ties to the Bruno Scarfo crime family in Philadelphia. Now this shit was starting to seem like a movie. The belief was that the ring paid the crime family a street tax for protection, utilizing them as a means to discreetly transfer large sums of cash, acting as a layoff bank. Thus, not only were numerous individuals associated with the NHL under investigation for their involvement in this illicit gambling ring, but the operation now had mob ties to the Philadelphia Mafia. These were the crazy rumors going around and speculation at this juncture, but it's crucial to note that these were rumors and speculation. Nothing was ever confirmed, but it's crazy to think about. Furthermore, neither Janet Jones nor any other player or staff member in the NHL faced formal charges or sentencing as a part of the investigation. Remarkably, Rick Tocchet would just stand alone as the sole individual associated with the NHL to appear in court, let alone receive a sentence. Instead of relying on direct evidence, law enforcement utilized the testimonies of the individuals that had placed bets to ascertain any potential illegality on the bettors' part, and to get direct insight into the scale and extent of the operation. When questioned about the extent of the operation, law enforcement officials indicate that numerous athletes, both retired and active, were engaging in betting activities with the specific groups across the United States and Canada. However, they were unable to provide an exact count of how many bettors were affiliated with the NHL. Following the public revelation of Operation Slapshot, both Rick Tocchet and James Harney were ready to face the consequences. Harney was promptly suspended from his position in the police force, with charges including official misconduct, promoting gambling, money laundering, and conspiracy levied against him by his former employers. The feds even busted down this guy's back door. No diddy. So his house got raided by all of his friends and former colleagues, during which they discovered a significant cache of luxurious items, including over $200,000 worth of Rolex watches and plasma screen TVs. This guy had so many TVs, he reportedly even had 2 plasma screens in one bathroom. Conversely, Rick Tocchet faced legal action in the form of a criminal complaint, compelling him to move to New Jersey urgently, because like Harney, he was charged with similar offenses, all of which were classified as second-degree crimes and carried a maximum prison sentence of up to 10 years. Intriguingly, a third individual was also apprehended as a part of the investigative efforts. Not much is known about James Ulmer, but he faced charges on prompting gambling, money laundering, and conspiracy after his involvement in facilitating bets for the operation came to light. Both Harney and Ulmer managed to post bail and await their trials outside of incarceration. However, right before the release, law enforcement officials confiscated an additional $27,000 in currency, a substantial amount of sports betting data, and several bank accounts collectively valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars. In response to the revelation of Rick Tocchet's involvement in an illegal gambling ring, the NHL, still grappling with the fallout from the 2005 lockout season, launched their own investigation. Commissioner Gary Bettman suspended Tocchet indefinitely from the league after the discussion about the situation took place. Concurrently, Tocchet also announced his own leave of absence to address the legal proceedings right away. And this is the last we would hear about Operation Slapshot for quite some time, as media coverage on the investigation dwindled, and we wouldn't really hear much about it until the court hearings. James Harney cooperated with law enforcement and pled guilty to conspiracy, promoting gambling, and official misconduct on August 3, 2006. Despite his plea deal, Harney received a 6-year prison sentence exactly 1 year later. Things were not looking good for Tocchet. Harney apparently was working with the feds on building up a case against Tocchet, and despite taking the deal, he still got 6 years. And oh yeah, James Ulmer, the third guy involved in the operation, he got sentenced to 6 months to a year in jail. As 2007 began, news regarding Tocchet and Operation Slapshot became almost non-existent. Tocchet remained suspended from the NHL, and there were few updates on the case as he awaited his next court appearance. Kinda weird that we're not hearing anything about a guy who could be facing 10 years. It wasn't until May 25th, 2007, nearly 6 months after Ulmer's guilty plea, that Tocchet appeared in court and pleaded guilty to conspiracy and promoting gambling. Despite facing up to 10 years in prison and a $50,000 fine, Tocchet received a slap on the wrist, a lenient sentence of 2 years on probation. This lighter punishment was attributed to significant developments in the case that undermined many of the initial serious claims. Several key aspects of the allegations were found to be unsubstantiated, leading to a less severe sentencing outcome for Tocchet. The absence of any documented connections between the gambling ring and the Philadelphian Mafia significantly mitigated the severity and scope of the operation. Additionally, no other individuals within the hockey community were ever charged or compelled to testify in court, indicating that this was more of an isolated incident among the NHL elites rather than a widespread issue throughout the league. Furthermore, it was officially verified that the group never placed bets on hockey games, further diminishing the impact on the integrity of the sport. Following Tocchet's sentencing, Operation Slapshot concluded with the perpetrators being brought to justice for their respective crimes. With Ulmer and Harney in jail, Tocchet continued his suspension from the NHL, taking time away from the sport and just chillin'. And he remained chillin' like this for about a year. In February 2008, upon reassessment of Tocchet's role in the gambling operation, Bettman would announce the end of Tocchet's suspension. Tocchet was required to abstain from gambling and undergo evaluation approved by doctors to assess any issues with compulsive gambling. With Tocchet's return, he joined the Coyotes. They rehired him as their assistant head coach as if nothing happened. In following interviews, Tocchet expressed remorse for his actions, acknowledging the impact that it had on his life and career. Despite the ordeal, he aimed to move forward. Sentiments echoed by head coach Wayne Gretzky and general manager Don Maloney, as well as the NHL, because this would really be the last time we would ever hear about Operation Slapshot in the NHL public eye. The narrative surrounding Operation Slapshot really reveals a disparity in consequences faced by those involved. Despite his role in operating and financing an illegal gambling ring, Rick Tocchet received virtually no punishment. I mean, my guy's the head coach of the Canucks right now, and his actions prompted an investigation into several high-profile NHL figures, including the Great One's wife. Tocchet faced a temporary suspension from the NHL and was later allowed to return, while his co-conspirators conspirator spent 6 years in prison. And I'm not saying Tocchet shouldn't be allowed to coach again. This happened almost 20 years ago and he's likely a changed man. He should absolutely be allowed to coach again. I just think it's a little suspicious that Tocchet only got 2 years probation for doing the same thing as Harney. And as we all know, Harney got 6 years in prison. The contrast in punishments raises question about fairness and privilege within the sporting industry. Like we mentioned before, parallels can be drawn to the past scandals involving prominent figures like Pete Rose, whose gambling addiction tarnished his legacy and forever altered his relationship with the game of baseball. The silence surrounding Operation Slapshot, despite its potentially seismic implications, raises profound questions about the nature of fame, power, and the selective lens through which we view our sporting heroes. Similarly, the entanglement of Wayne Gretzky's inner circle in the investigation hints at a narrative far more intricate than what meets the eye. Like, I'm sorry, you can't tell me Wayne Gretzky didn't place any of these bets through his wife. And this is all speculation, of course. Like, how would she know about this betting ring run by Rick Tocchet if it wasn't for Wayne? Like, come on. Wayne was the head coach of the Phoenix Coyotes. JR was on the Phoenix Coyotes. He was involved. Tocchet was the main ringleader. He was the assistant coach of the Coyotes. Is it conceivable that the league was aware of Gretzky's involvement and they maneuvered to protect its image by burying the truth beneath layers of silence? It's possible the NHL was aware of the damage this could have on Wayne Gretzky's legacy, so they did everything in their power to cover it up to protect the Great One's image. Fresh from a season-long lockout, the NHL couldn't even entertain the suggestion that the face of the sport might allegedly be connected to this scandal, so the NHL played it off as if the incident never happened. So why is it that Operation Slapshot continues to stay buried? You'd think a sports gambling scandal involving millions of dollars in bets involving NHL stars, coaches, and Wayne Gretzky's wife would get plenty of coverage. But aside from a few articles out there, like the CBC one I showed in this video and this one from the Hockey News, almost no other major news reports are out there. And it's totally bizarre. If you look into this case for yourself, you're just gonna find a bunch of articles with the initial report of the case first being brought to light, or you're gonna get hit with a bunch of unreliable sources with no evidence to support their claims. It's really weird how nothing was being reported on about this case. You had a former NHL player possibly facing 10 years in prison, not to mention he was an assistant coach at the time. Just saying that seems like a story that would make headlines. How did this not get more coverage? There's no news videos, no videos on the trial, no SportsCenter news reports, no interviews on it. There's nothing but a few articles. I really hope one day more will come out about this. This is likely a lot of your guys' first time hearing about this story, so spread the word. I think everybody should know about this story. So was Wayne Gretzky really involved? Was the mafia involved? What owner was reportedly involved? I'll leave that up for you boys to decide. And if you want to see more videos like this, check out my video on Joe Murphy. This is another story the NHL definitely doesn't want you knowing about either.